Hello and welcome. Today we have a couple of interesting stories, including one about an entitled mother-in-law who decided to make original posters wedding about the death of Queen Elizabeth. Am I the idiot for canceling my credit card after my boyfriend refused to return it to me? I'll preface by saying that I, 27, and my boyfriend, 30, have been together for 3 years and a half. I've been jumping from one job to another while he has been unemployed due to health issues that affected his performance at work. Usually, I'm the one handling rent, bills, groceries, etc. I use my credit card to make any purchase I want. Last week, my boyfriend out of nowhere asked for my credit card. I asked why, since I'm the one who handles payments and supermarket trips. He told me he wanted to buy some food and I agreed to let him take it but told him to return it later. He got back later and when I asked about my credit card, he was like, "What credit card?" I thought he was joking, so I told him to just give it back. He said he'd just keep it with him. I asked why and he said so he could start handling payments for stuff on my behalf. I felt uncomfortable and I said I'd rather not burden him with this stuff and asked him to hand over the credit card. He refused and said that he'll just keep it since it doesn't have that much money anyway. I was livid. I tried to argue but he told me to just trust him and let him keep it and swore he won't spend a penny from it. The next morning I went and cancelled it, then registered a new one. He must have tried to use it because he called and was confused asking why the credit card was not valid anymore. I told him it was because I cancelled it and registered a new one. He lost it and started scolding me saying he couldn't believe I had this level of petty and kept on about how I don't trust him with my finances and how financially abusive I have become lately. I hung up on him. The argument continued at home and he called me paranoid and unreasonable and all that. Then he started cold shouldering me and sulking about it for days. I do feel like I hurt his feelings and showed an amount of distrust towards him. Am I the idiot for canceling the credit card? The replies. Trust? He has no business mentioning trust after literally stealing your credit card and trying to use it. He said he wouldn't spend a penny on it and then found out it didn't work when he tried to use it. It sounds like a switch has flipped in his mind, turning you from the girlfriend/partner he respects to the provider of things who he doesn't respect. He feels entitled to spend on your credit card whilst telling you to just trust him. If I were in this situation, I'd be trying to find out if anything is triggering this, or, if this is an ongoing pattern of disrespect and entitlement, I'd be making an exit plan. You might feel a sense of guilt like he is your responsibility to care for. He isn't. In just 3.5 years he has you paying all the bills, and doing the majority of the household tasks. Now he's escalating to trying to take control of your money. It's a bit rich that he's accusing you of financially abusing him because his attempt to financially abuse you failed. He's not a good person and he will bleed you dry if you let him. I'm optimistic though because you listened to that voice that said don't trust him. You did great. You are worth better. There's likely a reason he is estranged from most people, and that reason is likely him, not the idiot. Second answer. He found out you cancelled it because he tried to use it even though he promised he wouldn't, but you're the paranoid one, right? Not the idiot. He's definitely gaslighting you too. Third answer. Not the idiot. Maybe time to cancel your boyfriend as well. Update. As I said, he has a physical disability that limits his work opportunities. He receives no disability benefits because he doesn't want to. He refuses to acknowledge he has a disability and pretends that it doesn't exist at all. When I tell him to look for a job, he'd blame people for purposely refusing to employ him and say that they look down on him like he's lacking or beneath them. He comes from a humble background. He no longer has contact with family due to abandonment issues but has some friends to lean on since someone asked. The answer is I do almost 80% of chores while he does the other 20%. Reasons for that is his disability. Finally, I pay for rent, bills, groceries, his meds, and transportation as well, so I needed the card to be constantly with me. Second story. Am I the idiot for making my chronically late friend miss her seminar? My friend, 25F, is constantly late for everything. Be it work-related or fun activities, she will always be at least 15 to 20 minutes late. She does not have a car, and so oftentimes I, 25M, will pick her up from her house. I work at a university and she is a PhD student there, and her place is along the way for me. The last time I offered her a ride to work, she ended up being 20 minutes late after I'd already arrived at her place. Because of that, I ended up being late for work. She is always very apologetic about her lateness but never changes. This week she was supposed to give a seminar at the university, which is a crucial part of her PhD program. She asked me if I could give her a ride to work that day. I told her sure, but that I was picking her up at 8 a.m. and she must be there exactly at 8 a.m., and not a minute later. She chuckled, but I told her I wasn't joking, and she promised that she will be there. The morning of her seminar, I drove to her place and got there at 7:55, and texted her that I was here, and she told me she'd be out in just a minute. At 8 o'clock, there was no indication that she would come out, and she didn't text anything, so at 8:01, I drove off. At around 8:20, she called me asking me where I was. I told her I was at work and that I wasn't joking when I told her that she had to be ready right that minute. She started screaming and crying over the phone and told me that she was having a hard time that morning and couldn't be ready right at 8 a.m. She then begged me to come back to pick up her, as her seminar is at 9 a.m. and she needed to be at the school before then. I could have done it quick enough to pick her up and drop her off without affecting my work, but I decided I didn't want to do that and told her that I won't. She was crying and hyperventilating at that point and said she'd promised to never be late for anything else again, and re-emphasized that this seminar was crucial for her PhD and that she absolutely cannot miss it without severe consequences. I responded, "Oh well," and hung up. I then went about my day at work normally. I feel like could have gone back and picked her up in this scenario since it wouldn't have been detrimental to me, and at the same time this was something very important for her. On the other hand, I feel like this should be a wake-up call for her chronic lateness. Now for the top comments. Not the idiot. You warned her. She also had 40 minutes to make other arrangements even after all her procrastination. Could you have been kinder? Yes. Could you have reminded her about your time restrictions? Should you have given her a final notice with an "I'm going to drive away at 8 o'clock"? Yes. Is it rude to be continuously late? Hell yes. Is she an adult? Yes. Is it your problem to manage her time? No. Still not the idiot. Second reply. I had a friend like this. I was left at the movies, restaurants, and train stations. She was never ever on time, always apologetic, etc., etc. Finally, I just started leaving after 15 minutes, which even seemed like a long time when you're waiting at a restaurant. I was also told after I left the first time, "I'll never be late again, I promise." But she was. And then the friendship faded away. Which was okay by me. My stomach was always in knots and I was always frustrated and angry by the time she showed up that I finally realized I wasn't enjoying myself. Clearly, your friend showed up at 8:20 and expected you to idly wait for her like her chauffeur. It is so disrespectful of your time. Frankly, I'd be okay with not having this friend. You are not the idiot. Third story. Am I the idiot for reporting a coworker to HR and getting her transferred to another team? I, 26F, am Muslim and Moroccan. It isn't obviously Muslim, I guess? I don't wear hijab. First of all, my first name is a name that is common in Western countries too. Think Sarah, Lena, Nadia, Miriam. My last name, I came to know, is actually a Jewish name. I have a Jewish ancestor, but it is very common in my country. So, just by my name, you would think I am not Moroccan. Then since I am Amazigh, Moroccan natives, I am very light-skinned, with light hair and eyes. It's not what you would think of when you hear African. I came to the US when I was 14, so I don't have an accent. During the pandemic, specifically August 2020, I was hired by a company to work remotely 100% of the time. It was only on September 1st that I started going to the office. I have a coworker. Let's call her LL, and I have been sort of friends. We both belong to the same team, and even while working remotely we used to have friendly chats sometimes. When we started working on site, she was so happy to have a friend to chat with. On the first day, she wanted to share her lunch. I declined because she wasn't able to tell me for sure if that pan she cooked the chicken in was used to cook pork before. So she said, "So you follow kosher, the letter H?" And I replied, "Actually, it's halal for me." She was obviously confused. Then, when she grasped the situation, she became cold on the spot. I am sad to say this, but I am used to that reaction. In my mind, all I heard was, "Another one bites the dust," and moved on with my life, but she started acting very hostile towards me. For example, if she sees that I am within hearing distance, she would make blatantly Islamophobic comments. She follows me around the office. When other coworkers ask me out for a coffee with them, she would loudly say she won't be coming with us, because she is going, etc. It was making me and everyone else very uncomfortable. The last straw was Thursday. I was going for a coffee run. We take turns, and didn't want to take my bag with me. It was a big tote bag. Well, she threw a fit and said that either I take my bag or she will call for security and ask them to go through it. When I said what she meant by that, she told me God knows what I have in it. My people are not exactly known for harmless bags. Everyone was shocked. They said that she went too far. I just went to HR Director Eckley and reported her. A couple of coworkers did too. She was called in Friday, then I did too, and I said that I can no longer work in the same space as her. Today I received an email that she will be transferred to another department. And I felt relieved. But my mom said that I know better than to do that, that I should have dealt with it without impacting her livelihood. So am I the idiot? Now for the top comments. You didn't affect her livelihood. Her racist and Islamophobic behavior affected her livelihood. She didn't even get fired. She absolutely should have, just transferred. Does that even come with a pay cut? Original poster. Most of the time HR only protects the company's interests, and your openly Islamophobic coworker was a legal liability. None of this is your fault, especially since you were not the only one to report her. She's experiencing natural consequences that aren't even as bad as they could be, because she put the company at risk. Second reply. You didn't do anything to affect her livelihood, her actions did that. Whether you would have reported her or not, it's more than obvious that her treatment of you was also affecting your other coworkers, who also reported her. All of this was caused by her bigotry. Fourth story. Am I the idiot for what I said to my mother-in-law when she made my wedding about Queen Elizabeth II? I, F29, got married yesterday to my partner of 6 years, Matt, M30. Some relevant info. I am Anglo-Irish, and Matt is English. We are not monarchists. Our wedding is being held abroad, France, and we, along with our closest family and friends, have been here since Wednesday. The issues with my mother-in-law Jane, F54, began when she started suggesting that we should cancel the wedding following the death of Queen Elizabeth II, which we shut down. After this, it was silence until the wedding morning, when Jane came to see me wearing a black suit. I had no real issue with her wearing something else if it makes her more comfortable, but I was a bit surprised because she didn't mention it and just seemed to be something she probably wears to work. I asked why she had changed and she said, we were in mourning and she wanted to be respectful, so I politely reminded her that she was at a wedding and not a funeral. When my bridesmaids got dressed, Matt's sister Emily, F26, came in wearing a black dress too, which she didn't even acknowledge as different, let alone weird and out of place. Around 70% of Matt's guests were wearing black. I was pissed off, but ultimately I could ignore it. I found out when I was greeting guests later that Jane had told Matt's side to wear black at our request to honor Elizabeth. At the reception, a bunch of our guests started to go missing quite early on, so my maid of honor went to look for them and came back to get me. They were in a different room with a TV that was playing the Q footage and holding a prayer circle, where they were sharing their memories. Lots of them were crying. I feel sympathy for Elizabeth's family in a human way, but her death is absolutely no loss to me. Jane knows Matt and I feel this way, though I have never pushed my views on her in the way she forces hers on me. She is very much a respect your elders and betters kind of person. I politely asked if everyone would come back for our first dance, but Jane said they were busy celebrating a great, emphasis, woman, which I felt implied that I am the opposite. I snapped and told her that she was being effing selfish and ruining her son's wedding day for a dead woman she never met, that the family is parasitic and abnormal, and shouldn't be celebrated nor mourned. I also told her to grow the fork up. I figured they weren't coming back to the reception anyway, so I wasn't too bothered when they stayed away, but I did ask the hotel to cut the TVs. Matt is on my side, though saddened that our wedding ended up like this. I feel responsible for a lot of it because I lashed out to an extreme, and it's not a side of myself I liked. I have also had Matt's relatives telling me I behaved inappropriately today, including Emily, who said that she understood my point to some extent, but she also thought that I was wrong to shame my mother-in-law when she is in mourning for a great interest of hers. I now wonder if I went too far, so am I the idiot? Now for the top comments. Not the idiot. Your mother-in-law literally lied to the rest of the guests to make them all show up at your wedding in mourning garb, to satisfy her desire to be seen mourning the queen. This is pure virtue signaling on her part, and she deserves to be shamed for it. Perhaps you were a bit harsh, but I'd say it was merited given what you've described here. I say this as an American, who is kind of a monarchist. I had a lot of respect for the queen and I find the royals fascinating. But your wedding was your day, not hers. Second comment. Yikes. Your new mother-in-law sounds like a royal pain, sorry. While the death of Queen Elizabeth the SECND is sad for the royals etc., did Jane stop for a minute to notice not even the royal family have stopped their lives? They are carrying on, and continuing with their lives and obligations, all while mourning. What she did was spiteful, rude, and selfish. She was obviously looking for a way to make the day about her, and boy did she try. I'm glad you stood up for yourself, and your husband too. You're going to need to keep an eye on her, it's not the end of her nonsense by a long shot. Congratulations on your nuptials. Sounds like you got the only good thing from that family in the form of your new husband.